Some relief for the common man. Petrol price is reduced by 1 rupee 80 paise a litre before VAT across India. An angry DMK takes to the street to protest Jayalalitha's sacking of welfare workers, threatened to stage a road roko and a jail baro movement.
சிறைக்கு செல்லக்கூடிய போராட்டமாக மாறக்கூடிய சூழ்நிலையை முதலமைச்சராக இருக்கக்கூடிய ஜெயலலிதா உருவாக்கி தர வேண்டாம் என்று நான் கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறேன்.
You cannot take in your vendetta revenge in these cases. It's absolutely inhuman.
Away from the political blame game, the ordeal of sacking, in the words of a victim, once a sole breadwinner. The PMK wants the Kalpakkam plant to be shut down by 2020. Plans to send a medical team to assess the impact of radiation. The Supreme Court will soon lay down guidelines to help courts decide bail applications in high-profile cases. The Apex Court promises to examine delays in pending mercy petitions before the President and governors. Ramjit Melani to assist the court. Less than a week after Lankan President Rajapakse's assurance, his navy attacks another Indian fisherman. And is the inordinate delay in disposing of domestic violence cases defeating the purpose of the Act? Hello and good evening. You're watching News Tonight with me, Anu George Kanjanathopal, on NDTV Hindu. Delayed justice is denied justice. That is why legislations are passed to help victims. We have some alarming facts on domestic violence cases that quite contradicts the purpose. But before we get to it, the national headlines. After crisis meet, Vijay Mallya says he never asked the government for any bailout to pay from the taxpayers' money. Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot's cabinet resigns to pay wave for reshuffle owing to growing political storm. UP Chief Minister Mayawati has announced that the UP cabinet has passed a proposal to split the region into 4 regions. And shocking images of schoolboys subjected to capital punishment at Sainik School in Jharkhand. And our Leander Pace and Mahesh Bhupati headed for Splitsville once again. There's finally good news for all of us. After a nationwide outrage over the recent fuel price hike, oil marketing companies have reduced petrol prices by 1 rupee 80 paise per litre before VAT. What this means is that in Delhi, petrol will be 2 rupees 25 paise cheaper per litre. Price cuts are expected to be higher in other cities like Mumbai and Kolkata, where VAT is higher. Fuel prices were raised 4 times this year. The last 2 price hikes coming within 2 months of each other, causing much outrage among people and various political parties. This piece of good news was welcomed by Chennaites. Here is what a few had to say.
It's really frustrating, either you have to, some government guidelines has to be done. So every time you rise, every time you just keep lowering the price, some standard benchmark has to be made, comparing with different countries. So what is actually happening, across the world, that also has to be taken into consideration. Simply, for the sake of, internal government, and people are actually playing with our money. What we are, earning very hard, we are spending almost half the money for the petrol.
1 rupee 80 paise ஒரு பெரிய மேட்டரே இல்லை. ஆக்சுவலாக பெட்ரோல் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இப்போ விற்கிற விலைவாசி நியர்பை 70 கிட்ட விற்கிது. பெட்ரோல் விலை இன்னும் கம்மி பண்ணணும்னு ரொம்ப ஆசை. ஏன்னா பக்கத்தில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா பாகிஸ்தான்லாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 27 bucksக்குலாம் கிடைக்குது பெட்ரோல். ஸோ இந்தியா மட்டும்தான் 70 rupees. பெட்ரோல் ஹையஸ்ட்டாக விற்கிற கண்ட்ரின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்தியா மட்டும்தான் இருக்குது. இதில் மத்திய அரசும் மாநில அரசும் கொஞ்சம் இணைஞ்சு செயல்பட்டால் பெட்ரோல் விலையை கண்டிப்பாக கம்மி பண்ணலாம். ஆவரேஜாக 30 ரூபா 38 ரூபாய்க்கு பெட்ரோல் விற்கலாம். அதுக்கு மக்களும் ஒத்துழைக்கணும்.
This is very favor to the middle class people, and if the petrol is also in control, so the many people can use a bike.
Just taxes unni korachanga unni kammi agum. Okay va, like engala mari velaiku porangalukku that would be very useful. Like na engalukku mattum illa ellarkume idu useful ah irukkum naan nenikiren.
The DMK in Tamil Nadu is holding a statewide agitation demanding reinstatement of more than 13,000 welfare workers sacked by the Jayalalitha government. These contract workers were originally appointed during the DMK regime in 1990, while Jayalalitha kept sacking them during all her regimes, alleging most workers were DMK cadre. The DMK kept reinstating them every time the party captured power. Denying the allegation, a few days ago, Madras High Court stayed the sacking of workers. In Chennai, the protest was led by M.K. Stalin.
பணியாளர்கள் ஜெயலலிதாவுடைய மீண்டும் அவர்களுக்கு அந்த வேலையை வழங்கிட வேண்டும். என்பதை அறிவுறுத்துவதின் சார்பில் இந்த அறப்போராட்டத்தை நடத்தியிருக்கிறோம். இந்த அறப்போராட்டம் விரைவில் உண்ணாவிரத போராட்டமாக, அதற்கு பிறகு மறியல் போராட்டமாக, ஏன் சிறைக்கு செல்லக்கூடிய போராட்டமாக மாறக்கூடிய சூழ்நிலையை முதலமைச்சராக இருக்கக்கூடிய ஜெயலலிதா உருவாக்கி தர வேண்டாம் என்று நான் கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறேன்.
12,000 families.
Yes.
It's a question of the livelihood. How do you look at this? What's your party stand on this?
My party stand is what Dalapati has already spoken about. We are ready to even go to jail for this. If the people are not given their jobs back, if they are not taken back for their work, then I think we will continue with this kind of agitation and protest. We are even ready to go to jail for that. So we are not going to step back.
And you look at this as a kind of an inhuman political vendetta activity.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not fair. Every time DMK comes to the party, we give them the job. Every time AIDMK comes to the party, Madam Jayalalitha keeps dispersing, keeps throwing them out of the job. She doesn't even think that they have been left behind with absolutely no other work. What happens to their livelihood? What happens to their family and children? So she doesn't even want to force it. Again, you cannot take in your vendetta, revenge in these cases. It's absolutely inhuman.
Subita is one among the 13,500 sacked people, welfare workers by the Jayalalitha government. She's now wondering how to run her family. A widow from Vidupuram, she lost her husband 11 years back and is the only surviving family member to take care of 2 children and a ailing father. With no other source of income, she's left helpless.
எந்த வேலைக்கு போய் நான் சம்பாதிக்கிறதுன்னு எனக்கு தெரியாது சார். இந்த வேலையை நம்பி தான் நான் இருந்தேன். கடைசியில் கோர்ட்டு எனக்கு வேலை கொடுன்னு சொல்கிறாங்க, பெரிய வேலை கொடுக்கக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்கிறாங்க. நான் எப்படி சார் பொழைக்கிறது? எனக்கு கூலி வேலை கூட தெரியாது சார். எனக்கு எப்படி சார் நான் 2 பசங்களை வச்சு நான் எப்படி சார் பொழைக்கிறது? எனக்கு பொழைக்கிறதுக்கு வழி தெரியாது சார். எனக்கு இதை நம்பி தான் சார் நான் இருக்கிறேன். எங்கள் நாயனை வேற உடம்பு சரியில்லாத இருக்கிறாங்க. அவங்களுக்கு மாத்திரை வாங்கி கொடுக்கறதுக்கு கூட என் கையில் காசு இல்லை.
A 3-judge bench of the Apex Court on Tuesday agreed to examine in January the serious issue of denial of bail in high-profile cases by trial courts and the High Court's contrary to the earlier dictum, bail is the rule, jail is an exception. This is following the hearing of bail plea of Ashok Kumar Sinha and associate former Jharkhand Chief Minister Madhu Koda. He is in jail for offences relating to money laundering. A bench headed by Justice Altmas Kabir, after hearing the petitioner's counsel Ranjit Kumar, listed for hearing on January 18 to decide the larger issue for laying down guidelines. Earlier, the counsel Ranjit Kumar told court that his client was in jail for more than 2 years, whereas the minimum sentence is 3 years and maximum is 7 years. He also told the court that of late, trial courts are not granting bail as some of these cases are media-driven and judges are afraid of their confidential reports needed for elevation. He submitted that the trial judges are also afraid because questions are asked on the basis of statements of the prosecution reported in the media. A serious issue has arisen as a result of denial of bail to the accused who also has fundamental rights. He said it was time a 3-judge bench of this court clearly laid down law for all the courts to follow so that the rights of the accused are not trampled upon. It was hailed as a path-breaking piece of legislation to help battered women in India. But on the ground, the fight for justice in domestic violence cases is fraught with delay and other hurdles. 1 in every 4 women in the world is a victim of domestic violence. It takes a lot for a woman in Indian context to even file a domestic violence case. Our reporter Krishnamurthy outlines the practical difficulties many victims face.
Marital life for Sujata was like walking on a path full of thorns. She was abused by her husband and in-laws for petty issues. Unable to bear the torture, she filed a complaint of domestic violence against them. While the 2005 Act of Domestic Violence states that all cases should be disposed of within 60 days, Sujata's battle has been on for more than a year.
நான் மார்ச் மாதம் ஃபைல் பண்ணேன். எனக்கு மார்ச் மாதம் கம்ப்ளைண்ட் கொடுத்தேன். டொமஸ்டிக் ஆஃபீஸருக்கு ப்ரொடெக்ஷன் ஆஃபீஸர்கிட்ட கொடுத்தேன். அவங்க ஃபைல் பண்ணது ஜூலை மாதம். 4 மாதம் டைம் எடுத்துக்கிட்டாங்க. சொல்யூஷன் கிடைக்கணும். எல்லா இடத்துலையும் கம்ப்ளைண்ட் எடுத்தால் மட்டும் பத்தாது. இதனால் ஒரு ரெமிடி கிடைக்கணும்.
Legal experts feel the Domestic Violence Act has, at best, become a sort of paper tiger. The Act entitles every victim to approach the protection officer appointed by the government in every district. The officer will look into the facts of the case and present it before the magistrate. From the date of registration of the complaint with the magistrate, within 60 days, the victim should be awarded a judgment. In the meantime, the magistrate has the power to grant interim relief to the victim on the basis of the facts of the case. The interim relief options available are custody of children, financial assistance, and custody of valuables and assets.
Passing of the interim relief is a major thing in this kind of litigations. Once an interim relief is passed, that does a lot of things. Once it gives a support for the victim to sustain her case. Number two, once the interim relief is passed, then the respondent will be more eager to complete the case as early as possible because they want to get an interim relief vacated. Okay. So once when the interim relief is not given, then it helps the respondent take as much delay as possible.
But the practical implementation of the Act leaves a lot to be desired. Advocates say that with no fixed time frame prescribed for the protection officers, they can take their own sweet time to investigate the facts. When the case finally reaches the magistrate, there is a delay again as they seek a reply from the respondent. So, there are hardly any cases being solved within the stipulated time.
The protection officersலாம் கம்ப்ளைண்ட்டை வாங்கிட்டு அதை ஃபைல் பண்ணுறதுக்கு நிறைய டைம் எடுத்துக்கிறாங்க. அதாவது அந்த சீரியஸ்னஸ் புரிஞ்சிக்க மாட்டாங்க. எவ்வளோ கஷ்டமான சூழ்நிலையில் கொடுக்குறாங்கன்றதை புரிஞ்சிக்காம நான் கம்ப்ளைண்ட் கொடுத்து 3 மாதம் கழித்து தான் ஃபைலே பண்ணாங்க. ஃபைல் பண்ணி இன்னும் 3 months ஆகுது, இன்னும் ரெமிடியே கிடைக்கல. ஏன்னா 2 monthsலேயே இதை க்ளோஸ் பண்ணுன்னு சொல்லிட்டு இந்த சட்டப்படி சொல்லியிருக்காங்க 60 நாளில். எனக்கு இன்னும் எந்த ரிசல்ட்டும் கிடைக்கல.
With many cases of domestic violence piling up, activists have called for an overhaul of the legal procedure in granting relief to the victims.
It's an excellent piece of legislation, this Domestic Violence Prevention Act. Unfortunately, it's not being implemented properly. I think all of us have to work together, the government, the judiciary, the police. Everyone will have to have the will to do something and see that this act is implemented.
Human rights activists will submit a plea highlighting these facts to the Tamil Nadu government, Chief Justice of the Madras High Court and the Union Law Ministry. They only pray for a positive response in their aim to provide speedy disposal of domestic violence cases for the aggrieved parties. In Chennai with Krishnamurthy, Evelyn Matthew for NDTV Hindu.
There was a murder in Kodungayur. 45-year-old Shanti was set ablaze. She succumbed to the injuries. 36-year-old Damodaran, who's Shanti's friend, was arrested on charges of murder. Illicit affair is suspected to be the cause of crime. The Puliamthopa police have started detailed probing. From shutting down Kudamkulam to halting Kalpakkam, more on that on the other side of the break.